Good evening to you all. Today, we're going to talk about episode 17 from Surah Al-Aaraf. But when good came to them, they said, "This is ours." And if a misfortune befell them, they blamed Moses and those with him. Surely, their fate is with Allah, but most of them do not know. When it says the people of Pharaoh, it means the Copts of Egypt. Whenever you hear the phrase the people of Pharaoh, know that we're talking about the Egyptians. All right, good. If the people of Pharaoh received things like wealth, health, and blessings, they would say, "This is something we deserve. It's not a favor from God or anything." But when poverty, illness, need, humiliation, and all that hit them, they would say, "This is a curse that has come upon us and afflicted us." When we saw Moses, we saw the features of Moses and his people. Who are they? The children of Israel, exactly. The source says that even though what comes to them, whether good or bad, is from God, they just don't realize it. The source is Lubab Alto al Faimani al Tanzil. Al-Khazin, what does the first question say? Who is he talking about? About the people of Pharaoh and about God, both, because he says, "So when it came to them." Pay close attention to all this in red. He said, "So it came to them, that's clear." He said, "them," that's clear, or befalls them. They take it as an omen, them, see? This one, that's clear. All of these are third-person pronouns. They take as an omen with Moses and those with him. Their omen. That's also clear, them. But most of them, again, he's talking about them, do not know. All of these are third-person pronouns. Someone is talking about the people of Pharaoh. So, who is it that's talking about the people of Pharaoh in the third person? All right, fine. Who else is talking? A question is still ongoing. It's the same as the first question. Who is talking about God in the third person? Because what does it say? It didn't say with us. No, it says with God. See, that's clear, with God. It could have said, "Their omen is with us." No, because pay attention, the next verse. You'll find it switches to the first person pronoun, saying, "So we sent." The second question, sir, is, what does it say this is for us? Okay, so here it says, when good befalls them, they say, "This is for us." Pay attention with me, this is for us. Should it be "this is for us," or should it be "for us," this? When good befalls them, they say, "This," meaning the good thing. You see, this here refers to the good thing. They said, "This good thing is for us." Which way should it be, just as it is here? Did they say "this is for us," or should it have been the other way? They said, "This," meaning the good thing, "is for us." That was actually another question. The third question is, what is the wisdom behind making the good definite and evil indefinite? I mean, the good is defined with al dash, the definite article, while evil is without it. What's the wisdom behind that? What is the reasoning behind making one definite and the other indefinite here? This was a very important question. Honestly, I really wanted to know the answer. Then the next question is, what is the wisdom behind changing the tenses? For example, it says came, walked, came to them. Let's leave the pronoun aside. Came is a past tense verb, my friends. I'm not sure if this will be clear, or if I should highlight it in another color. Actually, here it is, came. But that's a past tense verb. So when it came to them, came is past tense. But afflict or befall here, this one is. That's a present tense verb, afflict, eat, drink, they read, sleep, afflict. So, what's the wisdom behind one being past tense and the other present tense? So, came is in the past and afflict is in the present. That was another question as well. The last question is, what does he say? He says, do you know what the word yada yaro means? It means to be pessimistic. Here, that's what the word means. I'll write it out for you so you can notice it. Yada yaro, there you go. It means to be pessimistic. Very good. But ta'irahum, that means their fate. Now, that's a very different meaning between yada yaro and ta'irahum, even though, keep in mind, both words share the same root, ta'ir, bird. And I asked our teacher, Mr. Kamal Hadim, about this matter, and he was the one who explained it to me. He's basically my reference when it comes to the Arabic language. I consult him on many issues, as he's a solid linguist. So, yada yaro means to be pessimistic, and ta'irahum means their fate or their share. You get it? So, where does that come from? Where do these two meanings meet, or where do these two meanings intersect? Whatever the case may be, right? And the root is the same for both, to be pessimistic and their fate. That was my final question. If we read it this way, what would happen to the text? What's the problem? So, if something good happened to them, they would say, this is for us. But if something bad happened to them, they would blame it on Moses and those with him. What's the issue here? It's that you unify the tenses. See, Jayat hum and Asabat hum, both are in the past tense. That's good. And this is a good thing. And this is a bad thing. That's it. And then they said, this is for us, just so the context of the sentence makes sense. And they said, no matter what sign you bring us to bewitch us with, we will never believe in you. The meaning is that the people of Pharaoh said to Moses, no matter what signs you bring us to turn us away from what we are in, what we believe in, and what we are convinced of, we will not believe you. You get it? So some people say that Moses sat among the Copts, the Egyptians, or as they used to call them, the Kit, meaning the Egyptians. He stayed among them for 20 years, showing them the signs afterwards. After he performed his magic, they and the Egyptian magicians did their magic, and then they bowed down or prostrated. Even the magicians were thrown down in prostration. I mean, we already covered this in the last episode. All right, after they prostrated. And after all of that, he stayed among them for 20 years, showing them the signs of our Lord until God drowned Pharaoh and his people, and still they weren't convinced. They told him, no matter what signs you bring us, you won't turn us away from what we believe in. What's the source here? It's Al-Jami Liakam Al-Quran by Al-Qurtubi. The point to note here is that the conversation was between the Egyptians, let's say, or the people of Pharaoh. Meaning it was between the Egyptians and Moses, exactly. They were the ones who told him, whatever signs you bring us, we won't believe them and we'll keep going our own way. Meaning, you won't convince us by any means. And the narration, the storytelling, the recording, and the archiving are all for God. So we sent upon them the flood, locusts, lice, frogs, and blood, distinct signs. But they acted arrogantly and were a criminal people. That's the meaning here. When the people of Pharaoh, that is, the Egyptians or the Copts of Egypt, refused to believe in the signs that Moses brought, God sent upon them a flood that destroyed their houses and uprooted the trees. Some people say, what was this flood exactly? It was a flood of water. And some people say no, this flood was a flood of death. and some people say no, it was a flood of plague. And some people said it was a flood of smallpox, something like that. All right. And he also sent them locusts, lice, or nits, frogs, blood, and so on. All of this was as signs when they refused and arrogantly rejected faith in the signs of Moses. You see, he sent them all these things as miraculous signs and proofs that would leave them helpless, You see, or in other words, very clear evidence. And even with all that, they still refused to believe and disobeyed God. Who are they? The Egyptians, meaning the Cots of Egypt or the people of Pharaoh. So, what's the source here? It's Al-Jami Al-Quran by Al-Qurtubi. Notice here that we have an important question being asked. What is it? So we sent pay attention here. That is, when they didn't believe, you see. Like when they said to him, no matter what sign you bring us to bewitch us with, we won't believe in you, as mentioned in the previous verse. So what is God telling you here? So we sent. You see, this so we sent. And then he goes back and says, what? So they acted arrogantly. We sent all of this upon them. And yet they remained arrogant and were a criminal people. Are these two FAs? So we sent. So they acted arrogantly. Do these two FAs mean what exactly? That God did not know in advance what Pharaoh's people would do and was surprised by their actions. That would be natural if you're telling the FA here, meaning when they didn't listen. But aren't you supposed to already know that they wouldn't listen in the first place? So you're telling the FA, and keep in mind, this FA is always causal. It always indicates causation. That's the idea, basically. So it's like you're saying, I brought the worker to my place so he could earn a living, so he could work, but then he stole from me, so I fired him. This shows that you didn't know the worker was going to steal, and that's why you fired him. That's the point. It was because you didn't know. If you had known from the start that he was going to steal, you wouldn't have hired him in the first place. You wouldn't have employed that worker at all. So here we have two FAs. That's the story, basically. Do these two mean that God was surprised, that he didn't know beforehand what Pharaoh's people would do, and that despite all the locusts, lice, and everything he sent them, they still acted arrogantly? That's the verse that was the real question. Notice here, I told you we'd skip a verse and come back to find God talking about himself, saying so we sent, see, he's speaking about himself. When God wants to speak in the first person, he does so without any issue. And notice in the verse we started with, he was saying that it's with God. Here's the verse, it's not with us. If you remember, I don't like to go back to the verse, but whoever wants to can go back to it. Go back to the video again. He was saying with God. So what about here? Well, look at what he's saying here. So we sent, he doesn't say. So God sent. The second point to note is that this flood, it's God who sent it. Pay attention, here it says, so we sent upon them the flood. Notice this flood right here. And then, what else? The locusts, the lice, and all of that. The locusts, the lice, and the blood, these are, according to the Quran, considered clear signs, so you really need to pay attention to that. Clear signs. So, the word ayah doesn't just refer to a Quranic verse. No. These are also signs from God to the Egyptians. Let me just say, whenever I mention the Egyptians, you should know that they are the people of Pharaoh, or the pharaohs. All right, so these were signs. So the word signs doesn't just refer to the verses of the Quran, but also to other things like the flood, the locusts, the lice, the frogs, the blood, and so on. And when the plague befell them, they said, O Moses, call upon your Lord for us by the covenant he has made with you. If you remove this plague from us, we will surely believe in you, and we will surely let the children of Israel go with you. So, what does this mean here? When the plague struck the Egyptians, when God sent them the frogs and the other things, the lice, the frogs, the plagues, and all of that, when 70,000 of them were killed in a single day, what were they left with? Those 70,000 were just left there without burial or anything. They were always denying Moses. But in times of hardship, they would ask him to pray to his Lord, saying, O Moses, yes, ask your Lord to lift the punishment from us, and we swear to you that we will believe in the signs you have brought. Just have him remove the lice and the other things, the flood and the plague that he sent upon us. Not only that, we'll even set the children of Israel free and let you take them and leave. Who is saying this? It's from Mafati Algae by Al-Razi. Honestly, I don't have a question here or anything, because this is an informative verse. So here, the statement is from the Egyptians, the ones who held power in Egypt. The pharaohs, they're the ones saying this. And pay attention, who is it that is conveying the words of the pharaohs, recording them, narrating them, and archiving them in the Quran? God. Why? Because he says, they said, so they're the ones speaking, pay attention. The statement is theirs, but the narration is from God. So when we removed the plague from them until a term they were to reach, then they broke their word. The meaning here is that as soon as God lifted the affliction from them, from the Egyptians, from the pharaohs, from the rulers of Egypt, from the people of Pharaoh. So keep in mind, all of this means the same thing. As soon as we lifted the punishment from them for a specific period, of course, the lice, the plague, the locusts, and the floods that we sent, all of that, as soon as we removed it from them, they went back and returned to their previous disobedience and disbelief once again. All right, good. So, what's the source? It's the same source, Mafati Algae by Al-Razi. And actually, the same source will be used for the next verse, because these three verses are basically a package. They convey a single concept, so it wouldn't make sense to cite more than one source for them. All right, fine. But pay attention, there's also a question here. The question in the verse is, what does it say? He says, pay attention, this is very important. So when we removed the affliction from them, behold, they broke their word. All right, so behold, this is it. Let me show you the whole thing together. So when we removed, there you go, behold, they broke their word. Very good. All right, my brother, here's the question. Pay attention with me. This is a very important point. Didn't God know that they would break their word? He's the one who says, when we removed it, when we lifted it from them, all these problems, they went right back, my brother. Behold, they broke their word. Meaning, behold, they turned back. Behold, they disobeyed once again. So then, does this expression. So, does this mean that God did not know they would disobey and return to their former ways? The point to note here is, pay attention, God is speaking in the first person, saying we removed, not God removed. Just for those people who say, look, here it is. So when we removed it from them, But when it says, when God removed, I have the right to ask, who is speaking about God when it says, so we took vengeance on him and drowned him in the sea? Why? Because they, or since they denied our signs and were heedless of them. The meaning here, when God is saying, when we removed and lifted the punishment from them before, meaning many times, and they did not abandon disbelief until they reached the appointed time set for them to reconsider. God lifts the punishment until a certain appointed time so that they might reconsider. Is it a final honor? No. When they didn't abandon disbelief until they reached the deadline God had set for them to turn back, and they didn't, God took vengeance on them and drowned them in the sea because they denied his signs. Exactly. And keep in mind, we also have a FA, so slash then, here as well. Pay attention to, so we took vengeance. That's really good here. Who's the source? It's also Al-Razi's Keys to the Unseen for these three verses, 134, 135, and 136. Very good. The question here, or the first question, is look, what does he say? He says, so we took vengeance. Does God take vengeance? I mean, it's even in the first person plural form. So we took vengeance, that's God speaking. So why? Does God take vengeance or does he punish? There's a difference between the two, because vengeance is considered a flaw. Vengeance is something humans do, and it's considered a flaw in people. By the way, why take revenge? Why does he take vengeance on them if he's going to hold them accountable anyway on Judgment Day? People make mistakes, and on the day of judgment, they'll be resurrected, held accountable, and sent to hell. So he takes vengeance on them in this world. Why? What's the second question? So we took vengeance on them and drowned them in the sea because they denied our signs and were heedless of them. Because here means that they denied our signs and were oblivious to them. But didn't God already know that they would deny his signs and be heedless of them? And that's also a question, you know. So you get the feeling from these two verses, this one and the previous one, that the FA, the so, makes it seem like he was surprised by what happened. So we took vengeance because of their disbelief and lack of faith. But why did we drown them? Because they denied the sign. But isn't it supposed that you already know they won't believe no matter what you do? That's the idea, so he drowned them, and that's it. What were you waiting for? The point here is that God is speaking in the first person about himself. Why does he say, so we took vengeance 3 times here? And then he says, so we drowned them again, not so God drowned them, but with our signs 3 times. When God wants to speak about himself in the first person, he does so. And we made the people who had been oppressed inherit the eastern and western parts of the land which we had blessed. And the good word of your Lord was fulfilled for the children of Israel because of their patience. And we destroyed what Pharaoh and his people were producing and what they were building. The point here is that God speaks in the first person, and then in the second person, and then in the first person plural of the verse. I'll show you how. When he says we inherited, that's the first person. The people who were oppressed, and we blessed, that's also the first person. Then he goes back and says what? He says, and the word of your Lord was fulfilled. God. But why not say our word was fulfilled to keep the context consistent? So it would be, we inherited, we blessed. Our word was fulfilled for the good. No, it says, and the word of your Lord, the best, was fulfilled for the children of Israel. Pay attention, the word of your Lord, the best, was fulfilled for the children of Israel. That means God made a final decision to grant the land of Egypt to the children of Israel. Why? Because they were patient. Then he goes back to speaking in the first person and says, and we destroyed. So we have 3 times, twice in the first person, then your Lord. An addressed pronoun, then the first person again. The meaning here in this last verse, which we took as the title, is that God is saying, we God who granted the kingdom of Pharaoh and his people, their kingdom, which is Egypt, its land, its gardens, its orchards, its springs, its rivers, and its plants in the east and west of Egypt. We made them inherit it. We gave them dominion over it. We granted it to them. We bestowed it upon the children of Israel. And the rest of the verse's meaning says, and your Lord's promise was fulfilled that he destroyed. Not only did he give the children of Israel the kingdom, but all of Egypt's land. No, he also destroyed the palaces and homes of Pharaoh. And what else? And whose people? The source here is Majma al-Bayan in the interpretation of the Quran by El-Tabarsi. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.